Does anybody listen to this, or can I just like tell everybody's dark secrets and it'll like stay here?
I think I have 20 listeners right now.
Nice.
No, it's probably a bunch of local like Lancaster comics and maybe some friends from like high school. So it's up to you what you want to say on here, man.
Okay.
But for all intents and purposes, no one listens to this.
Okay.
This is my own personal diary.
All right,
Yeah.
This is a warm up. Okay, cool.
Yeah. This is nothing important. How is travel back to the homeland, back to the motherland?
Oh, are we on the podcast now?
Yeah, we're just doing banter.
Okay. Yeah, dude. Travel back has been fucking sick, dude. Like, the good thing about being this far away is it's just a flight away. So I just got like a red eye in, and I safely smuggled a bunch of drugs in. It was easy. It's super easy. I mean, you think like after 9/11 they would do something about like your carry-on, but they do not check your carry-on.
I don't know if they're worried about weed anymore.
They're not worried about anything. They didn't check me for anything. Like they did not give a shit. Like
I've been pulled aside for a random search before at the airport.
Well, you look shady as shit.
Well, what it was, I was flying to California to visit a friend, and I was in college at the time, so I had my backpack with all of my textbooks.
Mm-hmm.
And so when it went through the X-ray radar, all they saw was like a big solid block in my book bag.
Oh, yeah.
So they pulled me aside, and I'm one of those shitty students who just uses the textbook as a folder, so it's just full of papers.
Oh, yeah.
So he like dumps everything out and is like looking through it, and he's like just throws everything to the side. I'm like, wait, you're not gonna like put it back in for me? He's like, oh, do you want me to? Like, made it seem suspicious that I wanted him to put my belongings back in my bag.
Well, that's what terrorists do.
It's true.
Terrorists are very orderly.
That's how they trick you.
They got all OCD tendencies, and that's how you know that someone's part of Al Qaeda, dude. Is they're like, you made everything messy, and you're like, all right, let's check out this guy's asshole because something's wrong here.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Human Interaction Podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Hambone Hambleton. Today, I have with me a good old friend, Wes Williams. Yo. Nice.
Good to be here.
Thanks for bringing some class to my fucking podcast.
Dude, classy shit.
Good, yeah.
Class.
I'm glad you're here too, man. Wes is back in town, I guess, just for the holidays, right?
Yeah, dude. I just came in kind of to visit family, and I got lucky that a couple people that just reached out to me to ask me to do a little bit of comedy stuff here and there. But for the most part, it's just about, like, you know, during that time of year, I only make it back about once a year now. So I just seeing some old faces, trying to catch up and have a couple drinks. I'm very happy to be here, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. I feel like I'm watching you, like, interact with me now, and I'm like... which is also part of the fascinating thing about this podcast. But I feel like sometimes I make it into this like official, formal. Thank God damn it. I cannot think of words today. I told you I'm out of it. But I make it into this like formal thing, and then people feel like they have to like fit into it. I don't know. It's weird. Anyway.
Well, I think it has to be a little bit more structured than a conversation. You know what I mean? So you kind of like, you're like, what can I say that's like interesting to you as my friend, but also just be like, if someone were to listen to this from the outside, I don't want to get like Shane Gillis, you know what I mean? We can't just be like, all right, for our first 5 minutes, let's do our favorite impersonations of minorities.
Right.
Which is usually what I would do. If the mics weren't on, I would immediately ask you to just be like, do an Arab voice, like immediately.
I was going to say, that leads us into my next segment, which is racist impressions. I told my friend when that happened, I had just started like recording episodes for shit, and she made a comment. I said something dumb, and she made a comment like, "Well, you're never getting SNL." Like, I'm not worried about that. I have never been less concerned about like comedy in general, my comedy career, So
the blessing of like being like an utterly talentless hack is I can do whatever I want, and it will not change my career trajectory one fucking iota, dude. It's just a straight line. It looks like someone died on the fucking hospital bed. And it's just go boop. Like I could just say the N-word with a hard R right now, and I'll have the exact same bookings in the next 6 months that I would have anyway. No one gives a shit.
Right. Yeah, it is nice. I thought you were coming at me there. Like at first, I thought you were like, "Yeah, well, that's what's nice about being a talentless hack. You just don't give a shit." Like,
sorry, no, you're a lot of things, but I never thought you were a hack.
I appreciate that because there's definitely times where some of the shit I talk about is like, this is. Oh, I'm a single white guy. Like, I don't get laid. Like, I don't know. It feels hacky, but it's. I feel like hack is not necessarily like the premises; it's how they're
executed.
Exactly.
Because to be human is to have a derivative experience.
Yeah.
To say that you're experiencing the world in a wholly unique way is ingenuous. Like disingenuous is the word I'm looking for. It's like it's not being real to be like I've done things and seen things and thought things that no one's ever done before. Like every thought that could be had has been had.
Yes.
It's just about trying to bring that forward and kind of like. I think it's finding the unique dichotomies, finding like this is like this and finding connections that maybe haven't been explored fully. But like everybody gets upset about like, men and women sure are different. But, like, yeah, I spend most of my waking hours thinking about how to be in relationships with people.
Yeah.
And some of those people are women. And exploring those relationships is like, let's talk about what it is to fucking exist. So when people get upset about that kind of thing, I'm like, what do you find funny that is outside of the fucking realm of experience that we're having here?
Well, that's the thing. Those people, I was going to generalize way too much, but the people who call that shit, who call that premise like hack and say it's like tired and played out or offensive or whatever, like I feel like they just don't like comedy. Then they don't like. It's not that they don't like to laugh or find humor in certain things, but they don't like people like going out of their way to like find humor in something. Because it feels like you're making fun of something. Because anytime you want to make something funny, you kind of you make fun of it,
right?
You know? Like that's just the nature of making something funny. So,
and it feels like there's a style war in comedy right now where there's like people who are storytellers who are kind of like, this is what I'm going through with like my kids or my wife or my family.
That's my washing machine. It makes some crazy fucking noises. I'm sorry.
I felt that in my gooch.
Yeah.
Like I felt that under my fucking like balls. That was a very weird feeling.
It's part of the design, apparently. That's what the manual says. So my apologies.
If it turns out that you've been keeping like women in your basement trapped like that Ohio guy, and I'm just like doing this podcast right now, this is going to haunt me the rest of my life.
No, I promise. There's no one down there.
They're all dead.
There's no one living down there. Right. I'm sorry. Let me clarify.
But yeah, I think there's a lot of people who just go like, okay, here's the experiences I have that connect us as people. And that's comedy that makes people feel not so alone. That's generally my taste. And then to like paraphrase another comic, there's always the guys who are just like, if someone sees me and says, here comes trouble, it's because I'm holding a board game. Where it's like that very classic, like, here's a setup and here's that punchline. Like, and which is fine.
Not dropping any names, but
I feel like there's a very specific person who used to do that joke, and I don't even know if they're in comedy anymore, but fuck them. Come after me.
But that's actually, I like that joke. like that's the kind I like kitschy, cheesy shit like that. But I don't expect anybody to be able to make a living doing that anymore. Like, and those people think that they can. There's still people out there who would do that shit and expect to like make it big. And that's not what comedy audiences want.
Anybody who expects to make it big is a fucking idiot.
Well, right. But that's, I forget, I think I was talking to Brendan and Ryan when I first started. And they're like, what, why
sure. Two guys who have definitely made it. For the listeners at home, they've definitely done well.
When I first started comedy, though, we were just taught, they asked me like why I started doing it. And it was like, for the first month, I thought I was getting a Netflix special. Like, yeah. And now 5 years down the road, it's like, I don't even fucking go to open mics anymore.
It's funny how when you start, everybody has that like bravado, I think.
Yeah.
And then about like I remember at the 5-year mark being like, I don't even know how to write a joke. I don't know how,
okay.
like
That's
you just
comforting.
find yourself looking at notes and you're like, how to be funny. I remember getting off stage within the past 2 years and Googling like how to joke, like being so crushed and being like, what the fuck am I doing?
That's comforting actually, because that's kind of where I'm at. Like that's why I hate going to open mics now, because everyone's heard the shit I've been doing for the past 4 years, whatever, and I'm in that spot where it's like, I don't remember how to write a fucking joke. Like I can't write anything that I feel good about, and so open mics suck because I don't want to, and it's a bad attitude to take. It's a defeatist attitude to take. I admit that, because I could totally keep working on my old shit and keep punching it up and keep trying to make it better, but that gets boring,
Yeah, I think it's better just to throw it all away.
Yeah.
Like, fuck it. Because I someone actually brought this theory to my attention the other day. It was my roommate, and he was like, here's how you lose a lot of really good comics is a lot of people start out and they write jokes, and a lot of those initial jokes are good and they work. But then after you write those jokes, working on those jokes over and over again on stage, you develop a voice. And once that voice is your voice, sometimes those jokes you wrote, even when they're good, aren't matching your voice anymore. And so people try and like force circles into squares there. And instead of just like being like, okay, I'm at the 4-year mark, I'm at the 5-year mark, it's time to make updated material that matches my actual voice as who I am as a performer. You're pigeonholing these old jokes just because like they work in a vacuum and you get very stilted, weird sets where it's tonally inconsistent. And it just has this very invisible feeling of unease because it has no consistency as far as like your voice and your material, and you can kind of tell what's inorganic there now. And it really kind of makes people hit a slump in that 4 to 5 year mark, I think.
That's a good perspective, man. Yeah. Because it is tough. You brought up like how your voice grows over time and certain jokes don't fit in, and that's something a beautiful moment that I find sometimes is when I go back to one of those old jokes and now I've figured out how to make it work in the new voice or in the mature voice. You know what I mean? Because it's just that joy, like, oh, I don't have to throw this away. This was actually good, and it still relates to me as a comic and as a person, and I can still make it relate to audiences in a way that works with how I've matured and grown as a comic, I mean, everybody has to go through their own process.
And I mean, like they say that artistically you're supposed to kill your darlings, and like, I mean, this is taking a kind of like a bump off of what Patton Oswalt's talked about before, but literally, like when I performed for my first 4 years, I got like my bachelor's degree in comedy from like Central Pennsylvania. And then for my first 6 months in Denver, the only thing I was doing was tearing pages out of notebooks.
Really?
Just all of that shit ended up being worthless. I had such country comedy zone VFW humor, and then when I got to the city, they were just not having that shit.
Yeah.
And so it was just a lot of just being like wholesale, being like, I can kind of keep tags, or I can kind of keep certain things with a lot of the jokes that I was doing, but a lot of that shit I had to just wholesale throw out just to survive.
Yeah, well, and you were working for a completely different audience when you were back here. The jokes that are going to land here, aren't going to land in a big city. And actually, I've had like the reverse happening where I used to go to the lounge to bomb, and it was like, okay, I know I'm going to bomb, just record this set, listen to it, take it to Philly, and it does pretty all right, as good as it was going to do. And then now, like at the lounge, I have pretty good sets when I go, but everywhere else, it's like just fucking terrible. I suffered a major defeat recently, and I haven't been back on stage since. It was like 2 weeks ago. Just bombed worse than I have in like 3 years, and it was mostly my fault. So
that's the weird thing about bombing is you'd think there'd be an upper limit for the pain threshold where you would just be like, I can't get worse than this, but you can always get worse.
Yeah, I was at that point for a little bit. Like when I was really grinding, it was like, I don't give it, like, yep, bombing is part of the process. You gotta
Mhm.
just keep going, get on stage as many times as possible, and yeah.
So tell me about it. What kind of shit did you eat? Like, what went wrong?
It was I'll be rehashing a little bit, but because I kind of already talked about it.
So yeah, just give me cliff notes.
Yeah, so I was at the Grape Room. I went down there because that was one of my favorite rooms in the Philly area. Used to be pretty big like crowd that would go there, but now a lot of mics in Center City opened up, so no one really goes out to Manayunk, or maybe they just didn't that night. Anyway, there's a 10-year-old girl in the audience.
Oh no.
Who was there because it was her birthday, and her dad is a
no.
comic, and he writes a lot of jokes about her, so he wanted her to see the jokes. So it's already a thin crowd, and then add in a 10-year-old girl, and the first guy that goes up after she gets there, his first joke is a rape joke. Not me. It wasn't me. I was
going to say that's a weird way of like
that.
specifying, like, and that man was me.
Yeah. Nope. I don't do rape jokes anymore. I've evolved past them, Wes. Aren't you so proud?
He's just not joking about it anymore, folks.
Hey, come on now. You don't want the ones in the basement to hear you. No, but yeah, so he just killed the mood right away. And then did this, I'm not going to tone it down because there's a 10-year-old girl in the audience. Like maybe you should.
So brave.
Yeah. So I got to work these jokes out. I don't think you do. Dude.
Yeah, what an artist.
Yeah. And I can't, I did the same shit when I was, I don't know how long that guy has been doing comedy. I don't know who he is. So, but when I was, even up to like a year in, I was doing dumb shit like that. Like, I have integrity as an artist. I'm not changing shit.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't like it, you can get out.
Yeah. I'm the Da Vinci of rape.
Yeah.
I can't hide this back from the world.
Oh man, I mean, some say I'm more like the Michelangelo, but
he is the turtle of rape.
Yes. Great, good content to draw in listeners to this podcast.
Listen, if they're listening to this podcast, they're already super on board with rape.
I
think. I feel like everybody who's listening to this is either directly like having given birth to you, or they're really creepy guys in the basement.
I don't think my parents listen to this. I know for a fact that I have a couple female listeners. Is that right? At least like 3 or 4.
Women like you now? That's sick. That's sick. That's cool.
I don't know how much they like me, but it's still definitely a complex that I have, that like I feel like a creep all the time, and I don't think I am. I was, I did try to like creep people out when I was on stage for a while there, but I'm definitely past that in my comedy style and with my voice. I can still make people feel awkward, but not in that way. I understand how that's not the best experience for people.
Sure, yeah. I mean, do people still call you Hitler Dick?
Hitler hips.
Oh, baby dick Hitler hips.
Yeah. No, I haven't, because those people don't come around comedy anymore.
Yeah, and Ryan Meehan died. That was weird. He got killed by a horse, I heard.
He didn't get killed, but he definitely hasn't been at the lounge recently, as far as I can tell.
That's crazy.
Yeah. It was a wild. It's one of those things that you feel bad laughing about, because it's like,
do you?
Well, I mean, I don't like when anyone gets injured, but the way that it happened
is
like,
pretty funny.
Yeah.
It's pretty funny.
He was
horse
hit by
jumped out of the woods and stabbed him, stole his shit. That fucking horse, man. Someone's got to find him.
Left him for fucking dead. They're still looking. They have main samples, but they can't.
Spit in his mouth. Fucking Whitey. The fucking horse was trying to start a race war.
It's the worst curb stomp you could imagine.
Bite the curb, Ryan. It was fucked up. His hoof came down and mushed him in the back of the head, right on the bald spot.
Oh man, yeah, that's something that happened for sure. I don't have enough energy for beef anymore in comedy.
No beef,
Yeah, I don't care about anybody else more than I care about myself. So beef just doesn't.
Oh, so you're not altruistic. You're just selfish.
Yeah. Oh yeah, yeah. It's not because I'm a good person.
Okay.
I'm just lazy. Right? Like that's really what it is. It's like I don't have the energy for fucking beef with anybody, so I don't give a shit what like people say or whatever. You know, I don't know. Not that anybody's out there fucking running their mouth. I don't have a fucking Nick Cannon Eminem thing going right now, you know.
Yeah, I think it's important to stay out of people's business in comedy. People who like do this because like I feel like so often in comedy it's a bunch of people who weren't like popular in high school, and for the first time in their life they're starting to feel cool, and so they start to like mean girl each other. And don't get me wrong, like when I was here I definitely did that shit, but now that I'm in a city that has so many people and I'm getting to be old, I'm 31, and like most of the people I'm working with are 22, 23 years old, and like when I see that shit I'm just like, I really would rather like be trying to like fix myself than worry about any of this shit. And like when I was around here, I was such a gabby little bitch about so much stuff about getting into people's business. But like now it's just like I'm well more concerned about trying to be funnier, getting booked, or like I'm a fucking kiss ass these days, dude.
Yeah.
I used to try and be like, I'm authentic. Here's the real Wes. But now I'm just like, I would really like for you to like me, so you put me in your rooms.
Yeah, well, because it's something you love doing, and it's something you know. I still never got over the pride issue of like asking to be on a show.
Oh, sure.
Because like, and I know like that's how 90% of comics get booked on shows when you're not like having clubs call you and ask you to fucking come to their show.
Yeah, at this level, it's a lot of asking and drugs.
Yeah, yeah, and that's I always had the issue of pride where it's like, well, if they're not asking me to be on the show, then I'm not good enough.
And it's 50-50. I think that a lot of bookers, you just have to know who you're talking to.
Yeah.
Because like some people I don't want to like bother them. And then sometimes it's just like, I need to stay on like your radar, because like it's finding that weird balance of being like, I try to make a big thing out of like anytime like I'm like doing shows and stuff, I like make sure that people know it. And so like I want to be seen as a very viable comic, but I also don't want people to be like, he's so busy, I'm not even going to ask. Like, no, I will do anything.
Well, I think when I would think that if I were a booker and I saw someone like posting a shitload of shows, I'd be like, oh, this person works. Like this person is willing to put the work in, and they're gonna want to do my show because they do all these other shows too. You know, so that's probably not a bad thing. For sure.
Yeah. It's just, you know, just making yourself available and just proving yourself to be a professional. And that goes back to the talking shit stuff.
Yeah.
Of just being like, I'll be a professional. Like, I'm going to go in and I'm going to shake the right hands. I'm going to be nice to you. I'm going to be nice to people. And I'm not going to cause a scene. And you can trust me with your audience. Like, the worst I'm going to do in a show is be fine. And like, God damn.
I'm sorry.
Just let her die. Let this woman in your basement die.
I swear to God, it's the washing machine. It's not, which sounds like a terrible, like, made up excuse. I know.
It's the washing machine. I gotta go kick the washing machine. It's the gags out of the washing machine's mouth.
All right. It should be done now. Should be done making noise. I'm sorry it interrupted you.
No, yeah. But just being like, just giving people a parachute and just knowing, like, no matter what, like, hopefully I'm going to fucking kill your crowd and people are going to be like talking about it for a while, but at worst they'll go like, that was fine.
Yeah.
And like, that's when you see so many bookers book people who are just fucking maniacs, who are like showing up late or showing up incredibly drunk or fucked up on drugs and stuff like that. Even talented people, sometimes you'll see them just take the night off mentally.
Yeah.
Like just being like, I will never do that. Like you can always be like assured that I'm going to be at worst fine. Like that's just something off your plate to not have to worry about.
Yeah.
Because, you know, when you're running a show, especially if it's at a big place where you're doing, you know, 50 to 100 or more people, and you've got so much that you're juggling, the management at the restaurant or bar or club, and, you know, you're juggling all of these different things. The last thing you need to be worrying about is whether your talent's causing trouble or, you know, anything like that. So I think that that's something that you, as you grow as a professional, you just go like, hey, if you got me, I'm going to take that worry off your plate. And that goes a long way.
Yeah. All right. So yeah, we took a little break there. Wes and I were just talking about the how like the scene here in Lancaster, the quote unquote scene here in Lancaster has changed.
No,
so much.
I don't think you should give it the quote unquote. I think we, as far back as I can remember since we started this scene, the number of comics that we have in the area, when you look at the talent that we put out, like our quality, I think I would put us anywhere.
I've said the same thing too. Like including the people who have moved away and are now like part of other scenes. You know, like if you took the people who started in this scene, who started here, and put them up against people who started in any other scene anywhere, and I'll even say, you know, New York, L.A., Chicago, whatever. I think we'd at least hold our own. We might not be like better, but we'd at least hold our own. You'd be like, oh yeah, these people are comics.
Here's my hot take. If you took the people who started here for the past, let's just say 7 years, against the people who started in LA for the past 7 years, I will take our people.
Yeah.
People who start in LA, now tremendously talented people go to LA.
Right.
Usually by the time they're about at the feature level, you see people go to LA and flourish and have wonderful careers and become wonderful comedians and hone their craft. But God, the people who are at the open mic level in LA are dreadful.
Really?
They are fucking dreadful.
Well, I hear the same thing about New York too. Like,
really?
People, yeah. Well, there's so many. That's the thing. There are so many people who do it now. Like even when I started not even 5 years ago, realistically, it was still one of those things that people looked at and they were like, oh wow, like that's like a cool rare thing. Like but now everybody's a fucking comedian.
Yep.
Everybody has a goddamn podcast.
Yep.
Like that's one of the reasons it took me so long to start doing this, was because it's like, who cares anymore at this point? There's so much shit out there. Like how do you even build an audience? And then at that point, it's like, well, fuck having an audience. Then like, this is just for me, you know? And if people end up listening, cool. Yeah. And I think that's a good approach to take to comedy in general too, you know?
Podcast has just become therapy for poor people. That's all it is. It's a bunch of people. You go buy like $20 mics at Walmart, and then you just go like, how did your father hurt you? And you just fucking talk to each other for like an hour, and you're like, thanks for coming on my podcast. And it's like, it's cheaper than health insurance.
Yeah, it's true. I don't know how effective it actually is, but I'm a pretty good psychologist, amateur psychologist, I think. I've actually thought about doing like a segment on here of like advice. Like people have an issue and they're just like, I need someone who's not involved in the situation to give me
So
advice.
You just want to give people unsolicited advice?
No. They'd have to ask for it.
Oh, okay. So they go, all right, Hambone, what do you think? And you go like, here's what I think.
Yeah, exactly.
Kill your dad. And they go like, all right, that's what I'm going to do.
I'm kind of upset that this is still the perception that you have of me. This weird fucking dude who, like, it shows how long ago, how long it has been since we've actually like hung out.
2 years at least.
Yeah, that's how. Well, you know, I fucking went to jail and was on house arrest and shit. And
did I know you when you went to jail?
That might have been like right after you left.
What did you go to jail for?
DUIs.
How many did you get?
2.
Huh.
Over 6 years.
And you went to jail?
Mm-hmm.
How long?
Well, mandatory minimum now in the state of Pennsylvania for your second DUI is 30 days.
Oh, you spent a month in jail?
No. I went to jail for 2 consecutive weekends and then was on house arrest for a month.
Weird. Huh?
Yeah. It's the weirdest way for white privilege to show up in my life.
Dude, white privilege saves you, dude.
Yeah. I'll take it every time.
Absolutely. I've never denied white privilege once in my life. I've never been like, no, officer, come back. Yeah. I need to face the repercussions of my actions. I'm always like, hell yeah, dude.
Well,
woo!
And see, now, like, it's getting to the point where most of the things I do that I could get in trouble, like legal trouble for, are becoming legal anyway. Mm-hmm. So I just can't wait for that to really come through in Pennsylvania.
You guys don't have legal weed, right?
No,
you have medical.
Just
weed.
Medical. There are some bills that are being proposed. There's actually some that are now making it to the national level, which is pretty cool, because that would really eliminate it all if just federally it was legalized. But
Yeah, dude, we're passing shrooms in Denver, buddy.
I know.
Hell yeah.
I know, it's great.
I don't know if that should be an easily accessible drug. I never felt like a fucking Republican until I got to Denver, and I'm like, you people need to fucking calm down. I feel like you should have to plan ahead for shrooms. You shouldn't be able to get that shit at 7-Eleven.
Yeah,
like on a whim. You shouldn't do shrooms on a whim.
Yeah.
You should plan ahead for a weekend.
Yeah. Every time I've ever taken any kind of hallucinogen, it's like, okay, I don't have anything to do for 3 days after this. Like, there's nothing important for me to worry about or for me to stress over or to forget about. Like, always have to have
I need to get my affairs in order, update my will. Exactly, I'm doing things to prepare for this. I shouldn't be able to get it with like a candy bar. Like, shit, well, fuck it, it's Wednesday. Like, I don't know if I'm ready to like fucking trip like just casually.
Do you think they would really allow like doses that large just on a whim, or like, I mean, I'm sure like it would be like a dispensary model again or something like that. I don't know how it works in Denver now. I haven't really been keeping up with it. Are there just like stores that anyone can just walk into, or is it like,
yeah, man, like there's a weed store on like every block.
Yeah, well, and I know that's how it was with like dispensaries. And when I was in LA,
are you talking about shrooms?
Well, no, I am talking about weed at this point. It's just like I've only ever been in a state that had medical, and then I went to Massachusetts, and they have recreational, and it was like walking into a fucking AT&T store, basically. Yeah, like it's just shit's set up.
It's like, very shiny. It's looking like a traditional Apple store.
Yeah,
and like at least in like Denver, the stores are split in half, where there's like the recreational side and then there's the medicinal side.
Okay,
and I think there is a cutoff, but the cutoff is insanely high
for like amount.
Yeah,
that you can buy. Yeah,
I might be pulling this number out of my ass, but I feel like, and it's not even like you can buy infinite amounts, but it's just like the purity of what you're buying.
Right.
Like, I have a buddy who takes medicinal marijuana, and I think if I'm remembering correctly, like he gets chocolate bars where it's over 500 milligrams, which for the folks at home, that's an insane. An insane.
Yeah, I think the most I've ever eaten was like 100 milligrams, and that's even a heavy dose.
That's way. If I did 100 milligrams, I would start shrieking in the streets. It would be fuck. I think the most I've ever taken at once was like 50 milligrams, but I'm a pussy. I'm not like a smoker of like the marijuana as much, but like 500 milligrams is a just patently absurd amount of like THC to have in your system. But like that's where like the cutoff is for like one item that you can buy. But I mean, like if you just want to buy like 1,000 milligrams of gummies, I think you can.
Yeah. When I was in when we went to Massachusetts, I was actually kind of disappointed in the flower, because that's still what I like. I love edibles, but I like smoking herb. Like that's just my preferred way to imbibe.
Sure.
But or indulge, I guess would be the word. But they also had packages of edibles, little like cookies, like 5 milligram cookies, 4 for $20 or 4 for 15. So I got 2 packages of those, and I remember like I've only ever done really high dose edibles, so I was like, all right, I'm gonna try one of these guys. Probably won't do anything because like my tolerance is so high.
Oh sure.
Yeah, and so I'm like sitting on the couch right over there and just hanging out, and I'm like, man, I don't feel any. I don't think they're doing anything. And then like 20 minutes later, I realized I had just been laying on the couch staring at the ceiling for 20 minutes, and I didn't realize, like, didn't remember what was happening. Yeah, so like even 5 milligrams is, I feel like that's a perfect little dose to like go through your day. Yeah, and feel good.
I would say like every 5 milligrams is probably like 1 or 2 shots of whiskey.
Yeah, yeah.
Like if you take like, to me, like 20 milligrams is like a real nice evening. Where like if I go much beyond that, I'll get like a little bit weird on it. And like everybody has like a coming to Denver and figuring out what your like dosage should be story.
Yeah.
And like to paraphrase a friend of mine, Kyle Pogue, like everybody brings their friends to Denver, and everybody has that one friend who's like, whatever, dude, this isn't even hitting me. And then just immediately goes like, I need to go to the hospital.
Yeah.
Like, I am so insanely thrashed by this fucking weed.
There's two awesome edible stories. The first one, okay. This is the greatest thing that edibles have ever done for me. They made me into the greatest athlete I've ever been in my life.
Okay.
I was at a Steelers game in Buffalo against the Bills, and my friend had made super strong edibles. Ben
Roethlisberger goes down. I get in the game.
Yeah.
I just start chucking deep balls.
So it's like, I think it was like -2 degrees when we got to the parking lot. We're like tailgating and everything. These fucking cookies are frozen, or these brownies are frozen. So we're dipping them in coffee to soften them up and so we can eat them.
Okay.
And so we smoke a blunt and they really start hitting. And we're just like, all right, we got to hold down the fort, you know? So we're just throwing football in the parking lot, tailgating, having a good time. And this dude went to the bathroom and he's coming back from the porta potties and I have the ball and he's just like, hey, like throw it. And he's probably like 60 yards away.
Oh my God.
So I'm just like, all right, I'll give it a shot. Fucking launch the most beautiful spiral.
A perfect parabola.
Perfect fucking pass. The dude didn't even move. It fell right into his hands. And
right into
like
the numbers.
Yeah, I am not exaggerating at all. It was fucking gorgeous. Like it was the greatest moment.
Powered
of my
by
life.
weed.
Yeah.
Powered by marijuana.
That's the only, because I could never do it again. If I throw a football now, I'm lucky to make it 10 yards.
Oh, sure. I've seen you. You're a terrible athlete.
Hey, fuck you.
If you have never met Hambone, viewers at home, he's in a wheelchair. He's a disabled man.
Wes is lying. I can walk with a cane. No. And then the second one, we were camping and my friend made super strong edibles with dab, with like shatters or shatter. I mixed up the plurality of those nouns. So he made these really, really strong brownies. And another friend was one of those people who's like, edibles, I've eaten them so many times and they never work.
Oh, God.
So I take like a little corner of this brownie and he like pops the same size and he's like, well, one or two more just to be like safe.
Oh, sure.
I'm like, oh boy, yeah, you're going to have fun. So he is our chainsaw guy because he used to do tree work when we're camping. So he's sitting there chopping down trees and out of nowhere he just goes like, someone needs to take this from me. I need to go lay down. So I take it from him. He disappears. It's like 3 p.m. and he just disappeared until the next day. Just went and laid in his tent. He's like, I thought I was dying.
Oh, no.
And then I proceeded to chop down this tree high as fuck on edibles.
Nice.
Like perfectly between like 2 buildings that we didn't want to hit. It was, yeah.
You could be a whole better different person if you just ate edibles all the time.
I
just throwing touchdowns and cutting down trees. Just this lumberjack all-American.
All-American man, Hambone. Fucking edibled out, baby.
Just fucking to the gills.
I do think it does give you like a certain level of just next levelness, if we'll call it that. Like you do level up a little bit when you find that right dose of edibles. Same with mushrooms, same with acid. You like when you find that right dose that's not just fucking putting you on your ass, just melting you into couches and shit. I think it does bring out like the best part of our personalities, our brains, like our creativity, like all of that stuff. I think it does level us up to an extent. And then once you get over that threshold, you're just a fucking retard.
It's real tricky. It's real tricky because I know what you're talking about. You have to like walk up to that line and like you can almost like feel the edges of reality and like you can like see and feel and do certain things, but like you can get past that line real easy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've done like DMT, I've done salvia. I was just talking about salvia last night.
I love both of those.
I'm certain that either like the purest trigger of chemicals in my brain did this, or I literally saw like a past life of mine. Like I can remember it clearly where I was like cutting potatoes in the bottom of a boat. Like I remember just being like, I'm seeing it. I could feel in my bones it was a different time.
Wow.
And then another time I did it and I just became like liquid wood rolling in a ball.
Was that salvia?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Salvia will get you fucked. Can you even find salvia anymore?
I think it's been scheduled now. I think it's illegal.
Thank Christ.
I don't know. Christ. I thought, so here's what, a couple of my friends and I have experienced both of them together. So the first time I did salvia was at a party in my friend's apartment and only 4 of us were doing it. And then the rest of the party was just like...
Did they just like watch you?
Yeah. It was just a big circle of like 20 people. I hate
challenge drugs.
I was the first person to take the hit. And so you know how it works. You sit there, hold it in as long as you can, and then out of nowhere you're laughing harder, uncontrollably. You can't stop. You have no idea what's going on, why you're laughing so hard. And then people are like asking me what's going on, and I'm still conscious at that point, and I'm trying to talk to them, but my mouth and my tongue doesn't work. And then it's like, oh fuck, I gotta get my shit together, you know.
For me, salvia was the only hallucinogen I've ever done where I wholesale forgot I was a human.
Yeah,
like because even like with higher doses of acid and shrooms, I've always
even
been
with
like
DMT.
The
DMT was a weird one for me too. I thought I was in reality. I thought I was experiencing reality, and it wasn't like I was seeing. I think I was seeing like a parallel dimension because
you were in the upside down.
I think so. So here's what happened. I'll explain my experience because I remember it very vividly, and I haven't had many good like Rogan-y drug story episodes yet, so this is kind of neat, but also feels very stereotypical. But yeah, DMT, the first time I was with two friends. One was just chaperoning, the other two, me and this other guy, were smoking it. And I remember like we had music on. I remember like I did the whole rigmarole, got myself blasted off. And I remember I was sitting on the couch, I had a zip up hoodie on that was like zipped up. And I remember like rocking hard to the music. Like I was pounding my feet, fucking like grooving on the couch and everything. And then it was like, I remember like I had my eyes closed and I remember seeing like shapes in front of, like it felt like someone was going like this. You can't see me, the listener. It felt like someone was like poking at my eyes while they were closed. And I was like, I don't know if I like this. This is intense. And as soon as like I thought that, it fucking chilled. And it was just like, oh, all right. Well, we're just going to relax then. I didn't realize I was scaring you. I'm sorry, you know? And then I remember distinctly taking my hoodie off, like feeling really hot, unzipping my hoodie, taking it off. And then I just kind of relaxed a little bit. And then I like opened my eyes. My hoodie was still on. I like looked at my friend who was chaperoning. I was like, dude, sorry. I like got wild there, like dancing around, blah, blah, like, I don't know what got into me. That's not normally me. And he's just like, dude, you sat on the couch with your eyes closed and didn't move for 10 minutes. Like, oh, okay.
Yeah, DMT will make you think some wild shit, man.
Yeah.
I definitely remember like seeing like bluish people like dancing, and I shouldn't even say dancing. Like that's giving it too much like a real credence. But like if you've ever seen like a flip book where like you flip the pages really quick and then it looks like movement, but you can still tell it's not quite real. Yeah. Like it was like images like that shuddering around me in a circle.
Okay. Did you get the chrysanthemum breaking?
I got trails.
Okay.
Like as I walked about and moved my hands, I got like a very traditional psychedelic trail.
You were up like and moving around.
That's
how I was on salvia at that party. But
yeah. I did it standing up, which someone told me like could kill you. I don't know. You're supposed to do it laying down, I guess. I was standing up when I did it.
I think it's just because it's common for people to just kind of lose control of their like muscles, you know, because you go into like a trance state. So I think the caution there is that you could fall, you know, you might faint or not necessarily faint, but you know.
Yeah. I did that before Thanksgiving Eve, and like, cause like we were like, let's get fucked up and then go out on the town. And like, then we just like spent the rest of the night in like quiet, somber fucking remembrance of what had just happened. Like we like put the drinks away. Like we all just sat together in the dark, just like,
whoa. Yeah.
Like just not speaking. It was like a group of like 5 of us.
Oh man. Yeah. So maybe you will agree with this. Because my friends and I have tried to like define our feelings about these drugs, basically. So like DMT and salvia are very similar. And what we determined was that you're going to the same party. You're going to the same place on both drugs. But like with salvia, it feels like you like snuck in through a back door and you don't really want anyone to know you're there because you weren't invited. But with DMT, it's like you get there and they fucking open the doors. They're like, hey, what's up, dude? Come on in, have a good time. Like, yeah, that's a very interesting way of putting it, because when salvia, I always feel like I'm a spy and the reality I'm in doesn't realize I'm not supposed to be there. Yeah. It's like,
it feels like you clearly feel like you are a voyeur to a reality that isn't yours.
Yeah.
And they haven't figured you out yet.
That's, yeah, exactly. And then you mentioned being liquid wood and rolling. Because people often say you feel like you're being pushed down and to the left. I think you get a distinct motion that you're like moving diagonally, like down and left, which my friend described as after that party, we had read that if you just keep smoking it, you get just like this insane euphoria. You don't even hallucinate anymore. Like once you have enough of the chemical in your system. So we tried it. Didn't work for me. I fucking blasted off hard. But at one point, my friend's we're all sitting there in the dark, and he just goes, does anybody else, you feel like you're being like paved over, like there's a steamroller just, yeah. So that's a very common thing that people feel, is like a downward left moving motion. Yeah. With
what we were doing, and I think if I'm remembering correctly, we did 30 or 40 X salvia. I remember they used to like grade it.
Yeah, I think we had 20, so that's like, yeah.
But for us, the thing is, like, after we did it like 2 times or 3 times, all of us, I did mine twice, because the first time was the pirate ship, I call it.
Yeah.
Which is like, it was just such a clear visual into something that was a part of like my consciousness, whatever it was.
Yeah.
And then like the very out of body, like liquid wood. But after that, it was just, I think my body must have adjusted or whatever, because after that, like hits 3, 4, and 5, like I felt very melty.
Okay.
But I stayed in reality. Like after the first 2 extremely strong hits, I don't know if your body just adjusts quickly or what, but after that, I would just go like, oh, and then just like melt into myself a little bit, but I would stay like with the world.
Yeah. That's kind of how I was on DMT, except the second time I did it. It was, so like the first time I closed my eyes, I told you that story. The second time, it was like, I held in the vapor as long as I could, and then when I exhaled, it was almost like it made me like open my eyes. It was because like it is an amazing feeling when I was feeling it, you know? And yeah, then I just kind of observed the world around me, through the DMT eyes, through the DMT goggles. And, it was interesting. It was around Christmas time, and there's a Christmas tree in the corner. And I swear it was an entity, like it had a face and shit like that. Like it was wild. Experiencing that hallucinogen with my eyes open was nuts, which I feel like was a metaphor for sure.
I mean, it's interesting. I'm not a traditionally religious person, but I remember like I was growing up when I was in my teens, my dad got into a Pentecostal church, and there are people who speak in tongues.
Oh, I remember you talking about this a little bit. Yeah.
But something interesting about them is it was such a sacred experience for them that you weren't allowed to even kind of like allow that. You wouldn't like allow yourself to kind of like have whatever that was speak through you if you didn't have someone who wasn't there who had like done it before.
Okay.
And I think that when you're kind of tapping into these extrasensory abilities that I think a lot of people are able to tap into, there is something to be said about having kind of like a Sherpa there who is like comfortably able to help you facilitate whatever that energy is that's moving through you.
Absolutely. Yeah, like I've never done like a full ayahuasca trip. I know people who have, and they say it's intense,
Sure.
And you definitely want someone there with you who knows how to guide you through. But other drugs, man, I've like acid and mushrooms and shit. It's always just been like, all right, we're all taking the same dose, and we're gonna get through this together.
And maybe I'm a Debbie Downer, but like when it comes to like acid and shrooms, I definitely hold those to be like religious experiences that I don't want to do at parties. Like when I got into acid, there was a guy who sold it to me locally, and like we would go out to the woods with like a group of people and like sit in a circle and like do breathing exercises. And like, I know that's like way like over the top kind of reverent for something, but like respecting the drug and respecting the experience really elevated those early experiences for me.
Yeah, I've only done mushrooms, like a full dose, like an eighth of mushrooms at a party once, and that was not fun. It's definitely a I don't know if I consider it a religious experience, but there is definitely something like a ceremony to it, a ceremonial reverence, that I think we all have been applying, like, meaning my group of friends. Acid I like to actually take like quarter to a half hit if I'm like going out, because it's not enough to really put you, again, it's that like perfect dose for me where it's like, all right, I'm gregarious, I'm like outgoing, I can drink a lot and not get drunk because that's what happens on acid. And I'm not like stuck in my head, and I'm not hallucinating or anything like that. Like, I'm still very much a part of reality. I just feel really good, you know?
I did acid at a party with my one ex-girlfriend. Like, she had like this family member who was a real pirate of a human being. And he was like, I got this acid from John Lennon. And I was like, all right, dude, like whatever you say. And like, I did like one tab and I was like feeling good. And I was like, you know, I'm a old head. I've done enough hallucinations in my time. I was like, give me another hit of that. And he's like, you really don't want to do that, man. And I was like, you fucking pussy, put that in my mouth. And he was like, all right, here you go. And I was like, I don't know why your accent's changing. I'm great at impersonations. You're fucking up.
Yeah.
And I took 2 hits of this, and like I made such a buffoon out of myself. And like everybody who was left at the party by the time I was doing this was also just absolutely slashed on drugs.
Yeah.
But I just kept walking around to people, and I very clearly remember just constantly screaming, just being like, does no one see how insane this is? Like making a real fucking jackass out of myself. And no, like I wasn't doing it to people who were acting crazy. Like I remember like someone made like these little like cream puff muffins.
Yeah.
And like I just like would point at this dude, and I was like screaming at people. I was like, will no one stop him? Will no one call this man out? And they were like, hey, you okay?
Yeah.
Like,
wait, what did he do?
Yeah. And he's like, do you not want a puff muffin? And I was like, I don't want a puff muffin. Now's not the time for puff muffins. We live in a new age. Yeah. They were like, holy shit. I got very preachery.
Yeah. Well, that runs in your family too, right? Wasn't your dad a preacher?
No, he was just a cult member. He was a weird old fucking dude. He's simmered out. Like I still make fun of him a bunch, and he doesn't know that I do that. But
they don't need to.
When he first got into religion, he went way over the fucking top and was just a total fucking weirdo with it, and was like cutting open our neighbors' trash bags looking for sin and stuff, and we were all super creeped out by him.
Okay, yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, he got super weird, dude. I thought he was gonna. Let's see. I'm not putting that on the record. He did a bunch of weird shit, and he would like go like he went up to like I was in sports and I played like volleyball, and he went up to my teammates and told them like his grandfather got Alzheimer's because he sinned too much, and like basically he just like went around like being weird or pissing people off like all the time. And he's mellowed out a bunch now that he's old, and he got like remarried, and like now he's just like basically like your average like Fox News like Christian.
Okay.
And so like it's a bummer, but it's so much more easy to deal with.
Yeah. Obviously, he's not fucking committing crimes to try to
scaring the shit out of people. Yeah, like he would take me up on like mountaintops, and like we'd like read the Bible together, and I was always like, he's gonna push me off here. Like I always like had a real sense of danger with him at the time, because he like, I don't know if you've seen someone get like truly like reborn like Christian. They get fucking crazy.
I've seen shades of it, but never like to the point where they're like it consumes their life like that. I've never seen it like that. Yeah.
When people get certain that they're right, like pure like philosophical like Socratean like or Platonic like ideal of right, and everybody else is clear cut black and white wrong, they excuse any behavior. And they really do not like hold themselves accountable for anything outside of what their new code of ethics is.
Yeah, well, and I feel like that's part of the problem. I feel like more people are getting to that point in their beliefs where it's that black and white, I'm right, everyone else who disagrees with me in any slight way is wrong.
Mhm.
If you're not towing the exact same line that I'm towing, you're fucking wrong, and we're gonna fight about it. Like,
Right.
I feel like that's a huge issue in society, in especially America today, but all over the world, really. And you know, what brought us to that? I know that's like a big turn. That's a big left turn there, but I don't know, man. It's just, you look at the world and you see the things people say to each other, and social media has a lot to do with it because it removes that humanity from people. You're not actually talking to another person. It's just a face on a screen. It's ones and zeros.
I think it is the dehumanization of the internet a little bit, but I really think that the birth of Western media and the idea of, I think our current media system, and even what we're doing right now with podcasts and stuff, really proliferates this idea that it's valuable to have an opinion on everything.
Yes, yeah.
And that itself is a very new idea where I think for most of human history, at least in Western cultures, I'm going to assume Eastern cultures, when you didn't really know much about stuff, you just didn't have an opinion on it. Whereas now it's much more celebrated to, no matter what's happening in the news or in life, if someone says like, have you seen this? Have you heard about this? You go like, yes, I have, and here's what I think.
Well, yeah, another point is that things are more accessible, like you said, like with the internet, or even just the proliferation of movies and TV shows, things like that. Like pretty much everybody can watch everything that's out there, and people are way more informed, whether it's for the better or worse, whether their sources are reputable and reliable or not. You know, people are reading more information. People are attaining more information than they ever have previously. And so that leads people to generate an opinion. And then, of course, you think your opinion is right. And or
even valuable.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly.
Not every opinion is valuable. I had this happen to me the other day where I was part of it's basically a comedic competition where you try to tell the funniest, sluttiest story that you can.
Okay.
And it was a competition that I won. It was
what was the story? Was it the old hay bale?
No, I did a story about cooking a soldier. And so
it was supposed to be fictional stories?
No, I did that.
Okay.
I did that.
You cooked a soldier?
Cooked. He watched me fuck his girlfriend.
Nice.
It was like what got him off. It's a pretty fucked up story. It involves like guns and car sex, and it's a bunch of fucking it's a crazy story, and I won rightfully because it's a good story, and like I had the audience, and I mean,
how long do you have a video of it that I can? Or
I don't know if they have.
Do you want to tell the story on the podcast?
I certainly don't.
Okay, you don't want that.
But it was a competition that I won, and it was a relatively big deal, and it was a relatively big audience, and it's an honor. Cool. And so I did very well, clearly having won, and then afterward, like the door guy who was like I'm guessing open micer who I'd never seen before, came up, and again, when I don't do well, I'll tell you, but I fucking killed this story. Mm-hmm. And he comes up and he was like, "Hey man, like, can I give you some notes on your story?" And I was like, No. And he was like, he was so offended. Like he didn't even consider that was going to be like an option for me to say. And he's like, but like, I feel like you lost him at that one point. I was like, anything that happened in that story tonight was intentional. I'm a very good storyteller, and your input's not necessary. I don't respect your opinion, and I don't know you. Right. So the fact that you would even think that I give a shit is such a mark of ego that you would think I give a shit what you, because he's like, I think kind of you made like American soldiers look weird, and I was like, yeah, sometimes they're pretty weird.
Yeah, they're like people, they're human beings. Yeah, we're fucking weird creatures.
And the parts of the story that weren't immediately humorous are kind of disturbing for purposeful story effect.
Yeah.
Like I know what I'm doing. Like I don't.
That was the point.
That was exactly because he like. The guy I was talking about was a guy who like joined the military, like not to be a hero. He didn't want to help his country. He wanted to kill people. Yeah. And like I made a clear point of being like, the person I'm talking about is a sociopath. Yeah. He went overseas because it would make it legal for him to kill people. And like he would casually talk about it, being like, well, let me tell you about the 12th guy I killed. Like very casually talking about being a murderer. Yeah. And when you bring that up and kind of use that as a detail to garnish the fact that this is someone to be afraid of later, that will heighten later humorous effects because you have to let the people know there's good reason to be afraid of this person.
Right.
This specific part might not be humorous, but it's setting up something I'm doing later.
Yeah, it's a story.
Yeah. It's
exposition.
Yes.
It has a fucking...
It's escalating to points that will like pay off later.
Right.
But he was like, yeah, I don't know. I think you just made people uncomfortable there. And I was like, that's exactly what I was trying to do, you fucking idiot. Well, I've been working for the past 7 years on telling stories.
Right.
And some overweight security guards is like, let me tell you a little something. I was like, I don't need your opinion. I don't want your opinion. And even after I told him that, he continued to give me his opinion. And I was just like, I don't find what you have of value.
Right. Well, and I think that's something pretty unique to the Central PA scene and people who kind of started out here, as opposed to what I've seen in other scenes where people really help each other write jokes and they like give feedback to each other and blah, blah, blah. Here it was like, every man for himself. If you're not funny, you're not fucking funny. I'm not helping you be funny. Not in any like malicious way. And maybe it was kind of malicious at times, but I think it's just the attitude that we all took. Like, I'm putting myself into this. This is me.
Oh, sure.
You can't write jokes for me because I think we all had very, very specific voices and very specific styles that were specific to us, and that other people couldn't really pull off that well. Although Youngblood did kill with my Philly's Funniest set.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Well, remember the Christmas Krampus thing?
No.
You don't remember that? You were hosting at the Zone at that point where we drew names and did other people's jokes.
Oh, yeah.
That was like right before you left.
Oh, yeah. Now that I completely forgot about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did very well
and
with
half the people didn't show up.
Yeah, that was a fucking mess.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was super fun. I love doing that kind of schlocky shtick where you're like, all right, let's do each other's sets or like something weird like that. Because like you just get into this grind of doing the open mics every week and you know each other's material.
Yeah.
And you're basically mouthing along as they're telling their jokes. Like sometimes it's nice just to shake it up. And someone who I saw this week, Steve, who used to run Angie's. I'm blanking on his last name now. Steve, not Whitmer. Sudia.
I don't even really... He shows up at the lounge sometimes, but Angie's was before my time even, so...
Angie's was a great time because it was the worst
fucking
open mic. And like, I remember like people, like patrons would come into the restaurant during that mic and they'd be like, is this comedy? And the waitstaff would be like, no. And they would steer them away from us and be like, you don't want to see these guys. It's really fucking bad. But like he would break up the monotony of those mics where like once every other month he'd have like a pajama night or like a theme night or something like that. And one night we all just did like Heath Walkemeyer jokes. Like,
oh man.
Heath the fucking queef.
He every once in a while he'll show up at the Comedy Zone open mic, and it's still a joy. He's made improvements on his breadsuit.
I heard he's a cracker now.
Oh yeah, that's right. He is a cracker comic now. Yep. He used to be the inbred
He's an
comic.
insulting comic.
Yeah, an insulting comic.
Jesus Christ. Here's the thing, is like he writes jokes. Like every scene has like a crazy person that they go like, that's our crazy guy. But like when you like I love like getting drunk with people in Denver and telling stories about Heath the Queef because like he's got good jokes. Like the one that I always think about is like where he goes, I've been dating a blind white supremacist. I guess you could say she's a Nazi. That's from start to finish. There's no fat on that joke.
Yeah.
That's a perfect setup punchline joke.
Yeah, and see, I like. I've never been like that's never been my writing style. Is like the quick setup punchline, and that I used to get a lot of criticism for that from like you guys, like jokes are too long, blah, and it's like but fat. Man, you slow cook something real fatty, and it just gets so delicious and tender and moist. Like that's how I think about it. I've always been a
very
slow
moist.
Burn. Yeah, I've always been like a slow burn kind of comic. I've always tried to build to. It's an element of storytelling, but try to build to like a big payoff. The problem is like oftentimes the payoff wasn't big enough for all the build that I
if
put
you're
into
waiting
it.
that long, you better have a bomb payoff.
Yeah.
Like even at the club that I'm working with now, we have levels of like what you're allowed to do and like who you are in the club is very defined where when you're new there, you get newbie sets. And then you can move up to C, B, A, and Pro.
Okay.
So right now, I just recently got bumped up to B. But that's like they quantify your comedy to the point where if you're at B, they expect you to get a laugh about every 10 seconds.
Okay.
And it's very much so like they're running a numbers game where they're going like, you can do what you want, but you better be making them laugh.
Yeah, which is fine, but I always hate that like timing thing because you see so many people who become successful, they can go, a few minutes between laughs, but that's also when they're working it out over a whole hour. You know, like there's a difference when you're doing a 10-minute set and 2 of that 10 minutes is set up for a joke that doesn't really work that well. You can get away with it. 1, if you have the name, and 2, if you're working with longer sets.
Once the audience is there to see you, you can do whatever you want.
Right.
But if they're there to see comedy, I think you should hold yourself to a certain standard of, because like there's always going to be like the Mike Birbiglias who are like, I'm going to go 2 minutes without anything funny to say, where it's like, fuck you, dude.
Yeah.
Like that honestly really pisses me off. I hate his shit.
He was one of my like biggest influences when I started. It's weird. My influences it's like him, Louis C.K., Dave Chappelle, fucking Mitch Hedberg, and then like Bo Burnham. Like those were the 5 guys that I was really into when I started doing comedy. Yeah,
so many of them just turn into like just more spoken word. Because even when I say like storytelling now, even now I'm like, I have in my head like 10 to 15 seconds. Like there's got to be a tag. There's got to be something that makes them laugh.
No, Lancaster does like the story slam stuff, and I've wanted to join out because I think I have some funny stories, but it's like how funny can I make this over 7 minutes? This story that maybe has like 3 minutes of fucking funny shit in it.
Yeah, it's just you got to find the funny in it. Like there's funny in everything. It's just funny to be fucking human and to be weak and to be vulnerable, and like that's all comedy is just kind of, I think, looking at like those fractures and like kind of like the masks that we put on the animals that we actually are, and just kind of like looking behind those and being like, I feel weird and weak and vulnerable and scared and angry all the time. Yeah.
It's absolutely, I agree. So fucking hitting the mic. So you're working pretty regularly out there then in Denver.
Enough, yeah.
Yeah, enough to say that you're working.
Yeah.
That you're making some money. Do you have another job somewhere, like a part-time gig?
Yeah, I do like corporate housing. I set people who are traveling professionals up with like short-term leases and stuff. So it's just like a basic like pay the bills fucking 9-to-5 job. But yeah. I don't mind it. It's like a real millennial kind of place where like we sit on squishy balls and we have like a basketball hoop and like all that kind of shit, and we drink kombucha and suck each other's dicks. All that new millennial stuff. Yeah. We eat ass. You guys hear this? Eating ass? That's what we
serve for as an appetizer for every lunch.
Yeah,
just a nice big old plate of ass.
Sushi and ass.
Nice.
We flipped the sushi girl over.
Yeah. So you're obviously, you seem like you're happier out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I probably would have quit if I stayed here for like another year or two. I was very unhappy by the end of my term here. I definitely hit my ceiling, and I was getting very bitter and very lost, and it just wasn't what I wanted anymore. The euphoria and the grace that came with my early years in comedy, where everything was new and bright and shiny, had gotten very dull, and I was just in a tough point in my life anyway, and the move was dramatically needed.
Yeah. That's good, man. What made you decide Denver, as opposed to somewhere in New York? Or was it just that legal weed? Or
No, I don't hardly give a shit about weed. I hardly ever smoke. For me, it was like for like a year I was like saving up to move to Chicago, and then just like 3 or 4 people that I happened to know moved to Chicago, and I was in correspondence with them, and like to a T, everybody I talked to was like, listen, man, if you want to get good, you can go to Denver or Chicago, but if you want to get good and be happy, go to Denver. Yeah. Like everybody I knew who moved to Chicago ended up fucking miserable.
Well, yeah, because I feel like Denver is a new big city. Mm-hmm. Like Chicago, LA, New York, they've been like the staples for years, decades, centuries. They've been like the 3 biggest cities in the country for a long time. I feel like Denver is a lot of new growth. So that's where, Colorado legalizing marijuana, being the first state to do it, really helps because all the young artist, hippie, kind of millennial people started flocking there, and they all went to Denver because it's the big city, and I feel like there's a lot of newer ideas there, and people are more open and weird.
I think it's important to be on the cutting edge. By the time you hear that something's good, it's almost too late.
Right.
It's like establishing yourself as a person in any kind of scene, whether it's like tech or the medical industry or whatever. Like, I think it's always good to be on that rising tide. You don't want to be like there when it's already good and then fight your way up through the guts of the established order. Like, even when I got there, and I think the Denver scene as a whole, as I know it today, because like you have the 90s Denver comics, like Roseanne and Chappelle had been living out there for a while.
Yeah.
Josh Blue, like, those guys, that whole era kind of ended when like the road comic era kind of died, like that first classic road comic era.
Yeah.
And then it got brought back in the mid 2000s. So like the scene as we know it today, for me, I think is probably about 10 to 12 years old.
Okay.
And even me getting in with 2 years in now, like there's such an established hierarchy of people who scratched and clawed their way to the top that busting into these scenes is so very difficult.
Yeah, any city really. You run into that in Philly. Like, I know a bunch of the people who are like at the top of that scene. They're still all coming to the open mics and not that I've been. Again, I fucking hate comedy now, so I don't go to open mics.
Fuck jokes.
Yeah, fuck open mics. I love doing comedy, but just fuck open mics. And I don't know why. I used to love just going and hanging out with people. Now I'm just like, fuck this shit.
Yeah.
I've been doing this for 5 years. I'm not like trying to. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sick of doing shit for free.
It's funny. There's a local guy who's very good and very much clearly on the verge of making it very big.
Yeah.
And he goes and does club work, and he'll run professionals jokes for them.
Yeah.
And like they just pay him like, let's just say Bon Bite pays him a lot of money to just run jokes at the club so he never has to go to an open mic. And I think that's such a dream to just like give some up and coming guy like $1,000 and be like, here's 10 minutes, just go see if it works. Like, I don't want to be out in public.
That's awesome. That's all. I got to start doing that.
Just
find someone, hey, just read through my Twitter page. Just read through my Twitter feed.
Just run through this and tell me what works.
Yeah. Oh, none of it? That's what I thought. Thanks.
Well,
yeah.
Woo!
Yeah.
Didn't have to leave the house. That was nice.
Exactly. Yeah. I don't know. We were talking. You asked me if I'm happier earlier.
Yeah. Are you happier?
And in ways, yes. In ways, no. Kind of like we were just talking about. The grind really fucking kills you.
Sure.
It's exhausting. And I think I was a part of two more than average dramatic scenes, like a lot of drama going on in Central PA comedy and in Philly comedy. There's just factions fucking warring with each other all the time. When I was like, bitches. When I was in the peak of my my grind, my hashtag grind, baby. It was always very dramatic. There was always someone, and it still is, but now I just see it through social media. I'm not like actually there, like, and no one bitches at open mics. No one takes this shit off of social media anymore. Mm-hmm. It's like people run into each other at open mics all the time and never talk to each other. And then suddenly in a Facebook group about Philly comedy, someone posts something and then you have 800 people fucking screaming at each other. And it's like, what is this shit? So that's another reason why I just kind of wanted to take a step back, because it's like, people are inconsistent. They're not being honest with you, and I was killing myself for nothing, for something that was never going to get me anywhere.
Oh, sure.
And maybe all it would have taken was a move, to a different area, something like that. But that's where I was at with it, and that's why I started taking a step back. So in a way, I am happier because I'm not necessarily dealing with that shit. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, I still love being on stage. I still, I'm still a fucking laugh addict. Like that's still the greatest drug I've ever experienced was tricking someone into laughing.
Yeah.
That's the sociopath in me, and the Just that dopamine receptor. There's nothing better than getting a big laugh.
Oh yeah, it's absolutely addicting, and the stuff that you have to go through to get it is a lot of shit. But like, it's almost like being like a football player, where like for every minute you actually have on the field is like 10 hours of work off of it.
Yeah.
And it's just so much incredible work for so little payoff for those early years, especially. And like, you always get prodigies who rise through very quickly, but the average like career takes so long to get off the ground, and there's so many people who are standing in your way. And you're so utterly replaceable.
Exactly. And that's another thing, that just the market is so flooded now because everybody starts thinking they're going to get a Netflix special because Netflix gives out fucking 100 specials every month, you know? And that having an hour special on a nationally accessible media used to be like the peak. That's when you made it, you know? But now anybody can do it.
Yeah.
Like, I shouldn't say anybody, but you know what I mean? Anybody who can do an hour can have a Netflix special because they're just looking for content. And if you've been working hard enough and long enough to get an hour, you're probably pretty decent. You know, like there is that level of respect, as hacky as some people may be, or as much as I don't like some of the comics that I've seen on these Netflix specials and Hulu and Amazon Prime and all that shit. They have still put the work in, and they're still good at what they do. It's just not my style. And there are plenty of people out there who do like it, you know?
Yeah.
But I think the market is just flooded, and so many people don't realize how much work even that shitty person that they don't like has put in to get to where they are. Yeah. In that scene or in that profession. Yeah.
It's such a up your ass artist thing to say, but like, it truly takes an unconscionable amount of work to be bad at comedy.
Yeah.
To even be bad at comedy takes an incredible amount of work. When I look at like the people that I absolutely hate in comedy, like the people that like, I'm like, I fucking hate you.
Yeah.
I also like, in my heart of hearts, I'm like, I know you work really hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
I know you work really hard to be this.
Right. Right. Yeah. And that's what makes you hate them more, because it's just like, fucking give up. Hambone, just fucking give up, dude.
Why are you even alive?
Ask myself the same question every day. But yeah, that's where I'm at with comedy, and you know, I fucking love it. Once you do it, once you're in for a long enough time, you're never out. Yep. You know.
Yep. And I see all these local guys coming back too. Comedy Zone is the fucking pet cemetery of hacks. Yeah, yeah. All dude. These guys are coming back where it's like, I thought you were dead. Stay dead. We don't need your shitty impressions anymore.
Yeah, stop ripping off Rodney Dangerfield, please. Yeah.
Inside shitty pettiness for nobody listening.
Yeah, exactly. No, see, the people who listen to this might actually get that. That's like when I had Boyer on, we were talking because we both grew up in Lebanon, so we were talking about that for like 10 minutes. It's just like, oh yeah, if you didn't grow up in Lebanon, well, sorry, this is the Lebanon. In. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, we had an hour. You got anything that you want to plug? I mean, I pre-record these, so I can kind of put it out whenever. You said you had a sketch show that you do at a theater out there in Denver?
Yeah, if anybody at home is interested, I don't know how far the reach of this is, but in January, the last 4 Fridays of January, I am running a sketch show called Meatloaf and the Milkman. I am the Milkman. My roommate is Meatloaf, and we bring in the best of Denver comedy. We not only do stand-ups on the show, we do a lot of really fun sketches. It's very adult swimmy, very alt humor. And, you know, come check it out if you want. If not, check out our Facebook page, our YouTube page. It's all under Meatloaf and the Milkman. We do a lot of fun stuff. And even if you can't be there in person, just a couple of views, we'd really appreciate it. We're doing this for fun. So I hope you'd find it fun. And if you don't like it, you can talk to your friends about how shitty we are. So check it out and make fun of us or have a good time. But it's weird enough that, you know, it's worth, you know, a couple minutes of your time to check it out. So Meatloaf and the Milkman this January at Denver's Dangerous Theater.
Cool, man. Glad to hear that you're doing well. I'm glad that you came back and were able to stop in and and chit chat for a little bit over. Have some coffee talk with me.
Coffee talk.
Coffee talk.
For clamped over TNT.
And thank you for listening. This has been Human Interaction. I'm your host, Andrew Hambone Hampleton. That's my guest, Wes Williams. I hope you'll come back next time.